Just 3 races remain in the 2000 IRL season, and several drivers, including Mark Dismore, 5th in points, are eyeing the championship. Scott Goodyear hopes for his first win this year after 4 top 10 finishes. Scott Sharp is 3rd in points, due in part to his spectacular photo finish win in Texas. Buddy Lazier's last to 1st at Phoenix and 2nd place at Indy have him 8 points behind the series leader, Eddie Cheever Jr., whose win at Pikes Peak was the first for the Infiniti Indy engine. The ultimate goal is to win the IRL trophy, but the immediate challenge is the first race of the season under the lights at the high bank, smooth, wide, and ultra-competitive Atlanta Motor Speedway and near carbon copy of Texas Motor Speedway, where the most exciting open-wheel race in decades took place a month ago. ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, welcomes you to the 7th race of the 2000 Indy Racing Northern Lights Series, the Midas 500 Classic. 25 drivers, Jack Arute, are ready for the first night race of the year.
And Bob, a lot of attention has been paid to the front row and the fact that Greg Ray out-qualified Eliseo Salazar by 3 miles per hour. There's a lot of attention back here in the 3rd row as well. A rookie driving for TriStar, that's Jared Schrader, and the 19-year-old Sarah Fisher. Sarah is one of the drivers that has been talking about close quarters racing and how tight it will be. How do you handle the close quarters, Sarah?
Just going to give them lots of room and give them as much patience as I can.
Despite not having seen this racetrack, Sarah Fisher came here and has been quick in the 1st practice, the 2nd practice, in the 3rd practice, and she qualified very, very well for the Walker Racing team. She likes this Atlanta Motor Speedway. She's ready to go.
Gentlemen, for the command of fire engines, the Grand Marshal for the Midas 500 Classic, Al Unser Sr.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine.
And with that, we're just moments away from the start of the 3rd race for this series here in Atlanta. However, the 13th overall for the open wheel Indy style cars. Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jenkins, along with former Indy 500 winner Tom Sneva and a former pole sitter here at Atlanta. Many things to think about tonight. We have heat, the first night race of the year, and staying focused for 208 laps.
Well, no question. With this kind of close quarter racing, there's just zero margin for error. A driver hiccups, it's going to be felt, heard, and needed to be reacted to by a bunch of drivers that are going to be in close quarters. There's just no room for error. The guys are going to have to be focused, and the dance floor is going to be crowded. Many times you're not going to be able to choose the dance partner you want, and you just hope the ones you get don't step on your toes.
Eddie Cheever Jr. comes into this event with the points lead in this series. 21 points separate the top 5, only 56 separate the top 10. Just 2 more races after tonight for the $1 million championship. And here are the points that are available tonight. And the driver who leads the most laps gets a bonus of 2 points. Here's the way they'll line up tonight. Defending series champion Greg Ray out-qualified Eliseo Salazar by almost 3 miles an hour. It's Ray's 8th career pole. Row number 2, Donnie Beechler and Jeff Ward. Beechler is a native of Springfield, Illinois. His daughter, Shay, is just 2 years old, but he's guiding through her young racing career. Perhaps another Indy starter someday. Row number 3, Sarah Fisher and Jared Schrader. In the 4th row, Mark Dismore and Robbie Buell. Row number 5, Buzz Calkins and Ayrton Dare. In the 6th row, Buddy Lazier and Robbie McGee. Starting back in row number 7, Scott Sharp and Eddie Cheever Jr. Scott is following in his father Bob's footsteps. Scott has been racing in one form or another since he was 8, beginning his career in go-karts. Row number 8, Tice Carlson and Scott Goodyear. In the 9th row, Davey Hamilton and Shigeaki Ittori. Row number 10, Billy Boat and Stefan Gregoire. Gregoire enjoys just about any kind of outdoor activity. He's even tried his hand at scuba diving recently off the coast of Catalina with his car owner, Dick Simon. In row number 11, it's Scott Harrington and Stevie Reeves. The 12th row, J.J. Yaley and Al Unser Jr. And back alone in row number 13 is Jimmy Kite. This is what Al Unser Jr. told us he's anticipating in tonight's race.
It's going to be a big drafting game, and it's going to be a lot like Texas. I mean, that was really the most exciting race I've ever raced in, and because every lap we were just side by side, and it was, you know, there was like 7, 8, 9 cars behind me. It was a traffic jam for first place, and it was like that the entire race.
The event here tonight is 208 laps. That's 320 miles, 500 kilometers. The race record 141.5, and the defending champion is Scott Sharp. We have not had a repeat winner in the series so far this year. First race of the season won by Robbie Buell at Walt Disney World Speedway outside the gates of the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida. The second win of his career. At Phoenix, Buddy Lazier started at the back of the field and 200 laps later found himself in victory lane. At Las Vegas, series newcomer Al Unser Jr. hit the jackpot with a win, carrying momentum into the greatest spectacle in racing at Indy. But there it was all Juan Montoya who dominated the 500 miles and took the traditional sip of milk. The most competitive race in series history saw Scott Sharp hold off the challenge of Robbie McGee at Texas, and Scott became the series' winningest driver. And most recently at Pikes Peak International Raceway, Eddie Cheever silenced the media, giving the Infinity Indy engine its first ever series win. We'll be at his 7th race tonight. The last time we saw Donnie Beechler, Jack, he was up against the first turn wall at Pikes Peak.
And Bob, when he checked out of the hospital, his coroner Larry Cahill called him over. Donnie thought he was about to be fired. Instead, Larry said, "Look, Donnie, I like your style. You crashed when you were going for the victory. That's what this team is all about." And Vince Phelps, Donnie Beechler says, that's turned this season around.
Eddie Cheever Jr. coming off a win at Colorado, and he is the series points leader, but this team has had trouble with the car each day of practice. They believe they have those issues resolved, but we're about to find out for sure as the green is just around the corner of the Midas 500 Classic.
Half a lap to green, and Tom, you saw the final practice last night. Tell me about it.
Well, it was unbelievable. I was on the edge of my seat. Fortunately, it was only about 20 minutes long because I couldn't hold my breath any longer. If it's an indication what we're going to see in here in about 2 seconds, and we're going to have our hands full, and so are all these drivers. Right now, though, it's going to be tough with the sun just setting. As they enter turn 1, there's going to be some glare problems that these guys are going to have to deal with at the start of this race.
That won't be a problem for long, but it may be for the first few laps. Green flag waves, and here we go in the Midas 500 Classic. Salazar and Ray stay side by side all the way through turns 1 and 2. Who's going to get the advantage as they come off the 24 degrees of banking down the backstretch? Looks like everybody is through the okay. However, Scott Sharp has a problem. Scott Sharp has a problem. He brings the car to the apron as we complete the first lap of the race, and Greg Ray is going to lead it. Greg Ray has led in 5 of the 7 IRL races so far.
What? Keep going, right? Go. Yes. Go. All clear,
You
Scott,
can see him
all
trying
clear.
to find different gear selections. He's having trouble with the gearbox, Bob.
We lost gears. We somehow lost gears. I'm not sure which ones I have or which ones I don't. Stay low, Scott. You got the leaders coming up behind you.
They are coming up quickly on Scott Sharp. Greg Ray has jumped out to a considerable lead, but behind him it's still side-by-side racing. There is Greg Ray, whose last lap was 211.590, but look at the scramble behind him. That's Donnie Beechler, who has gone to 2nd position. Behind him, side by side, it's Salazar and Ward.
Well, you heard Goodyear or Sharp talk about the fact that he didn't know for sure what gears he had left in that gearbox, Bob, but there's some great racing going on here right behind the leader.
And there is Sharp diving off the banking down to the apron of the racetrack. Look at this as they're side by side through the corner. That's the battle back there for 3rd, 4th, and way on back through the field. On board with Jeff Ward. He's running in 4th position. Jarrett Schrader there on the inside.
Well, you can just see they're 2, 3 wide. They're just trying to feel the cars out and make sure that they can see where they're going. Again, that sun setting as they enter turn 1. They've got to deal with this for a few minutes longer.
Vince, what's the problem with Scott Sharp?
Well, as you heard on the radio, it is a gearbox problem, they believe. This team has struggled throughout the course of this weekend, and they were not very optimistic about their chances here tonight, but they certainly didn't expect to have a problem at this early stage. Scott Sharp has turned off the car, and that gives you an indication of the seriousness of the situation. We'll update you as they find out for sure what may be the problem.
Greg Ray enjoys a 2-second lead. Donnie Beechler has also pulled away from this group. That's Jared Schrader running third. Then on back through Robbie Buell, Salazar, Lazier, Ward, Dare, Calkins, Dismore, all running right together on the racetrack. We're with Buddy Lazier.
On the outside, that's Jeff Ward. On the high side in the Harris car.
And look at the glare. There is the problem as the cars come off the fourth corner. It's really bad all the way through this quad oval till they get to turn number 1, and then they enjoy some shade there in that area of the track. Ward and Lazier side by side, running 6th and 7th. Look at Al Unser Jr., who has gained 9 positions here in the first 7 laps. He's up to 15th after starting 24th, and Jimmy Kite has also moved up nicely, gaining 5 spots. He started dead last after having an engine problem at the end of the practice session yesterday that prevented him from qualifying.
Well, a lot of the drivers in the back of the pack got together in trailers just about an hour before the race, and they discussed teaming up to take advantage of the Atlanta draft. But the best conversation was the one with Tice Carlson. A couple of the backmarkers said, Tice, if we catch you, will you allow us to draft with you? He says, I'm going to the front. If you want to follow, it's okay with me.
Now we have wheel-to-wheel racing back there for the 5th position. That is Salazar and Lazier.
Wait, and you can see how close they're running. I mean, they're just interlocked to side pods, Bob. They got to have a lot of trust in each other at this point.
Really good information.
So the sun, you can see very, very clearly on the in cars, a problem right now, but as we go along, it will, of course, become less of a problem. There are the top 6 after 10 laps of 208. And we have a problem here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic. The caution has come on for Ayrton Dare, who is climbing out of the race car, obviously okay, but it does bring out our first caution of the evening after 13 laps. This is the young rookie who has been quite a sensation in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series this year, coming off of his best finish in his career. He finished 2nd at Pikes Peak. Here's a replay of what happened.
Well, looks the motor went away. He loses the motor and then spins in his own oil. Very fortunate that it happened at that point. It didn't get into the wall and no traffic bothered him. You can see the right there. Obviously, smoke came out of the back, and then it looked like he got in his own oil.
So Dare is okay. The car didn't hit anything, but it has brought out our first caution of the evening. Greg Ray is the leader right now with Beechler running 2nd. This ESPN Speed World presentation of the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series Midas 500 Classic at Atlanta Motor Speedway is being brought to you by New Midas. We're a whole new way to keep a good thing going. Go Midas. By NorthernLight.com, just what you've been looking for. By Pepsi One, with a breakthrough sweetener for a taste more like regular. And by Delphi Automotive Systems, driving tomorrow's technology. Well, Eddie Cheever Jr. has moved up in the field since the drop of the green flag. He is currently being shown in the 8th position. He is the points leader coming into this event. We're under caution for the first time this evening. An engine problem for the Ayrton Dare car. It spun but did not hit anything. Engine problems interrupted his run at Indianapolis. He was up to 3rd when his engine blew at the Indianapolis 500. Vince?
Great disappointment for Ayrton Dare after career best 2nd at Colorado. Give us the details on what you felt with the car this time.
No, my car was really good. A little bit of understeer on the draft, and I was right behind some car in front of me. But that's just disappointing for us. We've been working really hard this week, and then something like that happened. And it's just something that is out of our control. But the upper car and run great on the first few laps, and we'll be on the top 5 if that doesn't happen.
By the way, Ayrton says the sun is getting better lap by lap as the drivers go to turn 1.
Well, tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, it's the NASCAR Busch Series, Econo Lodge 200 from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And then at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific, the Kart Molson race in Toronto. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com.
Back here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the leader, Greg Ray, has been in close radio contact with his team leader, Thomas Knapp. They have discussed the revs. They are turning 10.5 of the 10,800 revs available. But what they are doing, guys, is they're also checking out their fuel conservation methods. They said at the 6, they said we got real good fuel mileage.
Keep it going, keep it going. Great, 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 great. No threat, Greg. Pull it up and go.
Well, certainly he has not had a threat to this point, Tom. In fact, he was kind of stinking up what was otherwise a good race before we had caution.
Well, I think we're seeing these guys all close up. You talk about RPM. These guys are running, some of them are running 2 high gears, some of them running 3 high gears because they just weren't sure what the coolness of the night would bring as far as RPMs and horsepower to the motors. So most of the times they run 2 high gears. Tonight, a lot of them are running 3 high gears, trying to make sure they get the most out of that motor.
Well, the top 3 are staying together right there. That's Ray, closely followed by Donnie Beechler and Jared Schrader running 3rd. Then a bit of separation back to a huge group of cars. Buell, Salazar, Lazier, Cheever, Dismore, Tice Carlson up to 9th, and Jeff Ward in the 10th position. On board with Buddy Lazier, you can see again that sun is still a problem, but not nearly as much as it was earlier. That's Salazar just up ahead.
Interesting, Bob, in relation to that sunshine, Eddie Cheever radioed into his crew and says, with the sun going down, my helmet looks like somebody shot it with buckshot. Cheever always entertaining on the radio.
Al Unser Jr. has moved up 12 positions. He started 24th and has passed half of the field up to 12th. And here he is, mired back in traffic. That is Sarah Fisher running just ahead of him.
Well, Sarah's doing a good job, too. I mean, she has been quick all weekend long, and we heard her talk at the beginning of the race. She was going to use her head, use some patience, and try to be there at the end of this race.
Now, Unser and Sarah run wheel-to-wheel through the corner. Unser did not qualify yesterday because he had a fuel injection problem as he went out to qualify. The engine just did not sound right. It would not make power, and so they decided to forego qualifying. He started back at the tail end of the field in 24th position.
And that battle by Al Unser is one thing that was not missed by a lot of the front runners. During the caution, all of the spotters were talking about, look out for Al Jr. He's carving up the field.
Greg Ray has the lead. There's a separation back to second place. There's a good battle there. Beechler and Schrader are very close together, and Scott Sharp is being lapped on the track as his problems continue. But you notice that Beechler and Schrader both dive back down to the inside of Sharp to try to get a draft off of him.
Well, again, they'll do everything they can to try to get a little more speed out of these things. But this Beechler kid's doing a heck of a job. And if, you know, if the people at home want to root for an underdog, this is a team that doesn't have the budget that a lot of these guys do. And what a tremendous effort. Running second, qualifying well, and just doing a tremendous job out there.
Well, he really is. Ooh, he tries to go to the inside of Scott there on the backstretch and comes very, very close to having contact with Jared Schrader. Beechler has no sponsorship on that car, but we said at Pikes Peak about how we see him so often running up front and talking about him. And we could talk about his sponsor if there was one on the side of the car.
Well, and again, Sharp in the red and yellow car had the gearbox problem, so he's down a few laps, but he qualified well as one of the fastest guys out there.
Eliseo Salazar was the fastest that time by in the number 11 car, running back in the 5th position. He was, in fact, faster than the leader of the race, Greg Ray, who has about 6/10 of a second advantage on Beechler, as both Beechler now and Schrader are able to get around Scott.
Well, I think Scott probably pulled up and let those guys go. He knows he's a bunch of laps down, so he's going to let those guys. He's got respect for these guys. He's going to let them go ahead and race.
This is 4th, 5th, and 6th here. That's Robbie Buell running 4th. And the side-by-side battle, literally since the race began, has been between Buddy Lazier, who's on the high side of the racetrack, and Eliseo Salazar, who's on the bottom side of the track.
Well, for guys that are in the points chase, you know, you'd think they might get nose to tail and just cruise for a while, but there's no cruising in any of these race drivers, Bob.
They still run wheel to wheel through the corner. Boy, the points are so tight coming into this seventh race rather of the year after 6 races. Just a few points separate the top 5, and with as many points available in this race and the other 2 coming up later in Kentucky and Texas, we have a real nice battle for the championship. Well, Greg Ray's lead is shrinking. There he is with the separation between himself and Donnie Beechler, but it isn't nearly as much as it was a couple of laps ago, and certainly not nearly like it was before we went caution.
But I think the thing that you've got to be concerned about, guys, is the fact that it's 3 cars using the draft to close in on 1 car. They are at the halfway mark in terms of fuel window, though, Tom Sneva. So now the car starts to lighten up considerably, does it not?
Well, no question about that, Jack. But the other thing that that pole setter, Greg Ray, did, he ran a real narrow track on the wheelbase. He's got a narrow track in there. That gave him more speed, less drag. It really helped him for qualifying. But a lot of these guys felt that in the race, after 10 or 20 laps, it would really hurt the car having that narrow track.
Here's Robbie Buell now under fire from Buddy Lazier as Lazier is pulled away a little bit from Eliseo Salazar. Now Lazier comes up to battle with Robbie Buell for 4th.
And you can see again, he's trying to take advantage of that draft, Bob.
And boy, the draft is so important here at Atlanta and on all these 1.5-mile racetracks. We asked Buddy about drafting in the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series here at Atlanta.
You could, I think, probably run most of around the racetrack four wide cars, and the problem is the lower line's going to be quicker, so the lower couple lanes will be predominantly where all the cars go. And because the draft is so valuable, I don't think you'll see too much 4 abreast, but I think you'll see 2 abreast all night and occasionally 3 abreast.
Boy, looking at that hairdo of Buddy's, he must have ran 5 abreast somewhere right before that interview, Bob.
Eddie Cheever now begins to close in the gap between himself and Lazier. Cheever running back in the 6th position. He has had all kinds of problems here this weekend. Eddie Cheever has had a clutch problem, a fuel pump problem, and alternator problems during qualifying that resulted in his starting back in 14th position, but he's now moved up to 6th here in the first 35 laps. That is Cheever, followed by Eliseo Salazar. They're running 6th and 7th. The interval between Greg Ray and Donnie Beechler is 1.2 seconds at the end of 35 laps. The yellow has just come on here at Atlanta. We don't see a spin or a crash on the racetrack. It could be debris, but the problem is there is the reason for the caution, as the car has come to a halt. Now, earlier, Jared Schrader had a problem in his car and fell from the 3rd position. There it is. It's the 43 car of Scott Harrington. Let's get more on Schrader from Vince.
Well, he's the leader in the Rookie of the Year points race, but this is going to be a blow. Larry Curry, one of the team owners, what went wrong?
Well, we're not sure. The thing started losing power. We think we might have broken exhaust header.
Anything that can be fixed and get back out just for laps?
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
In the points chase, even for the Rookie of the Year battle, obviously, they want to run as many laps as possible and try to stay in front of the other rookies.
And Jared would very much like to finish in the top 10. He is currently 12th in the point standings.
What's a little surprising, we had a cracked gearbox on Sharp's car. We had a header brake on Schrader's car. And this is a very smooth racetrack. You would think these things would happen in a place like Texas, not here, but a lot of mechanical failures, Bob.
Well, the pits are open now. We're going to see a lot of pit stops being made.
Greg, keep your RPM up with the lead. You want to drag the brakes a little bit, Greg.
He's dropping on Greg Ray.
And then neutral when what is
You
working
talk
for
about
you there.
dragging the brakes. When they run flat out, the brake pads get pushed away from the disc, and so you got to sort of pump the brakes up and get some heat in them so you can stop in a
Especially,
hurry.
Tom, when you're as close as Greg Ray is to pit in. He is the only one of the leaders down here towards turn number 4. So he will get the service first.
Same stagger.
You heard Thomas Knapp say they're going to go with the same stagger. That means the difference in the circumference from the outside wheel to the inside wheel to try and make it turn easy.
Tires are done. No?
No, there's a problem on the right rear.
Go, Greg.
That was a long stop. but it's okay. It's under caution.
Well, he is going to lose the lead, though, because several are going to beat him out of the pits. He was pitted up toward the entry to pit road, and Beechler was down toward turn 1.
Well, and you might ask, why is he in that position in the pits? Well, it's not how you qualify, it's the point standings. And Greg Ray has had a lot of trouble in the previous races. That's why he doesn't get a big choice on where he's going to pit.
And a problem with Sarah Fisher, who has no left rear on that race car. They're going to push her back to her pit box and reattach it. Fisher had moved up into the top 10. Greg Ray had a 21.8-second pit stop. Beechler at 13.1, and Beechler will be the leader when we go back to racing at Atlanta. We welcome you back to the Midas 500 Classic at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the 7th race of the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series for the year 2000. We are just about to go back to green from our second caution. Donnie Beechler is the leader of the race. The green race average so far more than 208 miles an hour. Mark Dismore is second, and Al Unser Jr. has moved up to third as the green flag comes out, and here we go, and the scramble is on.
Well, look at that pack up. I mean, they had to get by slower traffic. J.J. Yaley was out there, and he didn't get going quite as quick as some of the others. It gave the leader a little bit of a jump.
24 cars are still running. Ayrton Dare, who spun losing an engine, is the only car out of the race. Everybody else still running, and the battle is for the lead between Mark Dismore and Donnie Beechler. Greg Ray is moving up. He restarted this event in 9th position after a slow pit stop, but he's already gained 2 positions on that lap. And now we see Dismore has taken the lead, and Buddy Lazier looks for second to the inside of Beechler.
Let Beechler up high, and Lazier underneath him. Beechler in the black car. Beechler qualified a little higher up on the racetrack than anybody else. He likes that higher groove, but it's leaving a big opening for some of these guys on the bottom.
That's Al Unser Jr. back there in 4th position. He goes to the bottom side of the racetrack and tries to pick up 3rd from Donnie Beechler, and that's Greg Ray and Eddie Cheever wheel to wheel down the backstretch. There's Jeff Ward also on the outside, and right now we've got him drafting and running in a pack just like they did at Texas. Here's Jeff Ward's onboard camera. He's in 7th position.
Well, it's not taking Greg Ray very long to work his way to the front, Bob. He's awful strong right now on fresh tires.
Top 3, Mark Dismore on board with his OnStar GM Bi-Power car, looking back on Buddy Lazier. Right behind him is Al Unser Jr. Jr. works a little bit higher line through the corner than Buddy Lazier does.
Well, a lot of times he tries to spread himself out. If you're right behind the guy, it takes all the air off the front of your car. You lose your downforce. You start having an understeer on the exit of the corner. So he's trying to give himself some clean air.
7 cars running within a second of each other, and the top 11 cars are within a second and a half. On board with Buddy Lazier. We saw Sarah Fisher with no left rear there for a while. She's back on track, but what happened, Vince?
Rob Edwards, team manager for Sarah Fisher. What happened, Rob?
The inside rear tire didn't get on. Car came down off the jacks, and we released the car because we thought the stop was done. And as I say, the left rear, the inside rear wasn't on, and so we had to drag the car back and get the tire put on.
Fisher down to 18th. Bob?
Well, she has lost a lap and is now in 18th position. Look at this battle here for, well, all the way back to about 10th position. They're right together. Good battle for second, Lazier and Greg Ray.
Greg Ray on the outside.
That was made by Mark Dismore's crew was, Mark, make him work for it on the high side.
Again, the high side's a long ways around. Ray is faster, but getting around the high side makes it a lot tougher.
What you also want to watch is guess who is the slower car directly in front of the Thundering Herd? Mark Dismore's teammate, Scott Sharp. They have already cut a deal with Sharp. If the leaders can catch him, Scott Sharp's going to go high.
Well, we saw Scott do that for a couple other drivers earlier when they caught him.
That's for first place. That's for P1, Greg, when you get by Dismore.
Listening to Greg Ray's radio, and indeed that is for first place. Greg Ray heads to the high side of the racetrack above Dismore.
Well, Ray Ray is awful strong. He was able to get it done. The question is, after 10 or 20 laps, that narrow track, pulling those tires in, getting it down the straightaway faster, will that become a handling factor as the run develops?
Well, he was ninth when we went back to green, and here on lap number 53, Greg Ray has taken the lead once again. Unquestionably the strongest car at the moment. He out-qualified Eliseo Salazar by 3 miles an hour. He's going to leave the racing to everybody else, and it is right now for second position as Buddy Lazier has Mark Dismore in his gun sights.
Well, Buddy, the third-place car there you see Buddy. He might be a little quicker than Dismore right now, but I don't know if he's quick enough to get it done on the outside like Ray just did.
Tom, I just talked to Lee Kunzman down here in the Delta Fawcett Himmelgarn racing team, of course, of Buddy Lazier, and they said they've got a good race car, a very comfortable race car, and they're going to be patient. We're a long way from the end. This is just lap 54, and they want to make sure Buddy's there at the finish.
And Greg Ray is not by any means driving away from the field as he has done previously. Dismore and Lazier staying right with him.
Bob, your leader may be electronically handicapped just a bit. It seems their radios will only work from the middle of turn 3 to the entrance of turn 2. They've got no communication with Greg Ray on the backstretch.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Very seldom are these drivers electronically handicapped. They might be otherwise.
I think in today's day and age we should call that electronically challenged.
There you go. There you go.
Beechler and Cheever running back into 4th and 5th position. And, well, now we see Cheever look to the inside of Donnie as they move through the 3rd and 4th turns. Cheever tries to go to 4th spot. Oh, they're so tight coming off the corner and through the quad oval.
Unbelievable. Eddie, you know, he always races better than he qualifies. They've tried to work real hard. They came down here and tested, trying to work with their qualifying. Obviously, the results weren't seen qualifying for this race, but when the green flag goes down for the race, he goes forward.
Also right up there is Robbie McGee, who restarted in the 12th position. He's now joined that lead group and is in 6th spot. So it's Greg Ray leading by a 1/4 second over Mark Dismore, then Buddy Lazier, Eddie Cheever Jr., Robbie McGee, and Donnie Beechler. The Midas 500 Classic, 208 laps. We're 62 laps into the event, and Greg Ray has a slim advantage over Buddy Lazier. Mark Dismore running in 3rd spot, and Robbie McGee has moved up into 4th position from his 12th starting spot.
Well, Lazier's done a great job to get by Dismore, and he closed right up on Greg Ray. But you can see how tight they're running. They're running right on the bottom of the racetrack. Through all their telemetry and computers, they figured out the cars run flat out, so the shorter distance they can run, the faster the time is, and they're just keeping it right on the bottom, not only in the corners, but down the straightaway.
Running together on the racetrack are Dismore and his teammate Scott Sharp, but Sharp is not on the lead lap. Tomorrow, the 22nd annual Mile High Nationals held at scenic Vandermeer Speedway. Last year, 7 of 8 professional track records were destroyed. 4:30 Eastern Time, and also the finals at 11:30 tomorrow night on ESPN. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. First and second, Greg Ray and Buddy Lazier. Al Unser Jr. was right up there amongst them. However, now he has dropped back and finds himself in the 9th position. And, Tom, I don't think it's any more of a problem than simply losing the draft.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it lost the draft or he had to roll out of the throttle one time when he was trying to make a pass. And you have to, if you crack that throttle, you lose a tremendous amount of momentum. And these guys are running so close, it just doesn't take much to lose a lot of territory.
Tom, when you pass him, he's drifting out in the high lane when he comes onto the straightaway.
I just spoke with Darren Russell, the chief mechanic for Al Unser Jr., and they said no problem. They got out of the draft a little bit, but it's a long race. They don't want to be overly aggressive at this point. They know they can make their way back up toward the front.
There are 17 cars currently on the lead lap. Those not on the lead lap are Fisher, Hattori, Stevie Reeves, who is in his first Indy Racing Northern Lights Series event this year, in 20th position for the Logan Racing team. Scott Sharp is 20 laps down. Yaley, 22nd position. Scott Goodyear is up in 14th spot, and he began this race from the 16th position.
Oh, look at this.
Whoa, a big
lost motor right in front of Scott.
Right in front of him. And that brings out the caution. It is Buzz Calkins.
Oh, that's too bad for Buzz. They didn't qualify as well as they'd like, but they found something late, and they were just hoping they were going to have a great day.
It brings out another caution here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, our third of the evening. Back live at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic for the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series. Pit stops during this caution period, and once again we concentrate on the then leader Greg Ray. And Tom, this just doesn't seem again like an ideal pit stop.
Well, no, they've only run about 30 laps, so it won't take long to put the fuel in it, so the tire guys have got to be quick. But you can see the left front, he really stumbled with the left front. You can see they're done with fuel. The fuel guys are gone, but they got to wait on the tires, and very seldom does that happen.
Tom, one of the things that I'm hearing down here in their conversations is the heat is building up in the wheels to the point where they're having difficulty sliding them off.
Well, you can see that Greg Ray did not have a good stop, and he is fallen way back in the field. Vince?
Buddy Lazier was running as high as second, of course, challenging for the lead, but during that pit stop, they lost several positions. They couldn't get the nut back on the right rear tire, so that stop was lengthy. It's very difficult for the team when you're sitting in the pits and you see other cars zooming past you during the stop. They finally got it taken care of, and Buddy is out, but he lost position.
Yeah, he lost position all the way back to 6th, and once again, Tom, Ray drops back to 9th position, the same as the previous caution.
And that's a tough deal. You know, pit crews are very, very critical. Jack mentioned that they're developing heat, having trouble getting these wheels on and off. This banking at 24 degrees puts a lot of load on these cars when they're in that banking, and they're getting more heat than they're normal used to.
Well, you know, this close racing is great for everybody except maybe the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series officials. It's great for the fans, and the drivers like it also.
Texas was unbelievable to see 14 cars that were that close, and you know there are times that it was a sheet of paper probably difference between cars, almost touching.
I've never seen that many drivers in open wheel racing give that much respect and room to each other.
In IROC or in NASCAR, it's more of a contact sport. If you make a mistake, you can rub on somebody or push them a little bit. If you don't get too out of control, it's even more entertaining. In open wheel, you can't do that.
Well, we've seen some good racing here in the first 72 laps, and we are going to go green in probably another lap here. Now, Mark Dismore has once again taken the lead as a result of pit stops. This time, however, moving up into 2nd position is Robbie McGee, and Greg Ray drops all the way back. Now he's being shown in 7th position. The last race that was run at night in the series was last October at Texas Motor Speedway. The winner was Mark Dismore. Now, you'll recall that they were supposed to race at night at Texas earlier this year, but rain prevented that. It was run on Sunday afternoon. We're on board with Mark Dismore, the leader of the race, and will be going green. You saw the pace car pull off there in the first turn.
Well, you heard Ray talk about the respect they have for each other, how much respect they have by how much room they're giving each other. They're not giving each other that much room, and if that relates to respect, there's no respect out there, Bob.
Robbie McGee there in 2nd position has a new sponsor on the car for this race. Broadband Investment Group comes on as the major sponsor of Robbie McGee. We're listening to Dismore's radio, and the green is out. Here we go, and look at Cheever quickly take 2nd position away from Robbie McGee.
The silver and black car underneath got a great restart. Robbie had a little trouble getting up to speed, and he's going to get taken by 2 or 3 cars.
And now Cheever wants the lead as he goes to the inside of Dismore, and we could see our 4th leader of the evening if Cheever leads at the line, and indeed there it is. Dan Weaver is the chief spotter for Mark Dismore. He's guiding him through these laps here, and he's probably telling him that Lazier is right there beside him in the battle for 2nd position.
Okay, here.
not sure I'd want to be a spotter at this kind of race, Bob. I think it'd be easier driving the cars than trying to worry about telling the driver what's happening all around him.
He is clear, and Mark Dismore has the lead once again. Again, that's Dan Weaver, the chief spotter for Mark.
Good job.
They run in a huge pack down the backstretch with the exception of Dismore, who's pulled away. There is the second place car of Cheever.
And again, that's silver and black. That's Sharp, Dismore's teammate, and the red and yellow car on the outside. Still very racy, but a few laps down because of the gearbox problem.
Yeah, he's 20 laps down in 21st position, but still the car is running with the leaders. There is Scott Sharp and Greg Ray now, who continues to move up. We listen to Greg's radio as he is in 5th spot.
See little Al back here and Robbie McGee battling. You see the cars wiggle a little bit. There's not that much room where they can wiggle very much and get away with it all night long.
Now Ray moves up to challenge for 2nd position. Eddie Cheever on the inside, Ray on the outside, and Greg trying to make that pass.
Hold your line, ride it out. We got plenty of time.
And now Greg goes for the lead. Well, it didn't take him as long this time to move up to the lead. Greg Ray out front again.
Well, he really is good on cold tires. On a full load, the car is awful fast. He's head and shoulders faster, but as the run goes on, he sort of comes back to the pack. It'll be fun to watch.
Tom, how important is the spotter to Greg Ray? So important that despite the fact that he has molded earplugs, you will notice that he takes pieces of 200-mile-an-hour tape and tapes those molded earplugs in his ears. I asked him why. He says, I don't want him to fall out. I need to know what my eye in the sky is telling me.
I'm not so sure if he just doesn't enjoy the pain after the race when he has to take them off.
Pulls a little skin off the ears. Well, check the interval between 1st and 2nd as the leader crosses the line. Ray has a half-second advantage on Mark Dismore. Buddy Lazier, we ride with him, is in 3rd spot. Vince is with Buzz Calkins, who's out of the race.
Well, Buzz Calkins, I know you're not happy about standing here on the sideline after that blown engine, but it sure looked like it's fun out there. Was it as fun as it looks?
Yeah, no, everything was going well for us. The car was good. We were just kind of running around at the back of the lead pack, just waiting to, toward the later part of the race to really start going at it. We were just playing it conservative, running in cruiser gear, but we're going to be at the end, so we'll get it figured out for the next one.
How about the slicing and dicing we're seeing tonight?
Sorry?
How about the slicing and dicing we're seeing tonight out there?
Yeah, it's good, and it's actually everyone's behaving where they're running, and with the spotters, they're all doing a good job, and so it's a lot of fun. I mean, everyone's respecting where they are and who's beside them, and so it's fun. But unfortunately, we're not going to be a part of it.
That's Buzz Calkins. Bob Jenkins.
It's his 3rd DNF of the year, by the way, for Buzz Calkins. Greg Ray now lengthens his lead to 1 1/3 seconds. We've had 5 leaders so far in this race. Greg Ray has led the most, 62. Dismore has led 14. Beechler 4. Carlson 2. And Eddie Cheever Jr. has been in front for 1 lap. 5 leaders, 8 lead changes.
And Bob, that lead by Greg Ray has now allowed him to go into 6th gear. They're going to cruise along for a while and try and save some fuel.
Boy, he has a good battle in his rearview mirrors as Lazier and Dismore have been fighting wheel to wheel for the last several laps. Eddie Cheever watching there in 4th. And that's Scott Sharp there running in the picture, also on board with him. But again, problems early in the race have really dropped him far back into the field.
Well, but as a driver, you never lose your raciness, and these guys have a lot of fun out here. They run a lot of throttle, and he's having a great time. It's just something inbred in race drivers that they got to push the pedal down towards the floor.
Outside.
Mike Ford guiding Scott Sharp.
Outside.
Donnie Beechler up ahead in the black car. Just ahead of Jeff Ward is Robbie Buell. He's in 7th. And Jeff Ward, with whom we are riding, is in 8th position.
Well, again, when they run 2x2, they're blowing a big hole in the air, and it lets those guys behind suck up to them. And that's what we see happening. We're getting that pace car formation. But I think the green's been out a while, hasn't it, Bob?
Yeah.
Bob, in no way do I want to give this race at this point to Greg Ray, but in all of his victories last year, Greg Ray did them without his owner, John Menard, on the property. I'm looking around in his pit area tonight. Guess what? No John Menard.
His best finish of the year, by the way, has been a 7th. That was at the opening race in Orlando. He had a 9th place finish at Las Vegas, but other than that, all of his finishes have been 15th or worse for Greg Ray. But right now, he is out in front by 3.8 seconds, and for the most part, except for pit stops, he has been dominating this event. There are the top 6, and we've completed 88 of 208 laps at Atlanta. Welcome back to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. There's our track map. The green car, Greg Ray, is the leader, and you can see the 4.5 second advantage he has over the 91 car of Lazier, and that number is covered because Mark Dismore in 28 is so close to him. That's how close they are on the racetrack.
Well, we've had a great pack of cars running from about 2nd through 10th have been swapping paint with each other almost. They've been running so close, Bob.
That's Lazier coming up on the slower car of J.J. Yaley and trying to get a draft off of him, but that may not have been the wise move as Mark Dismore goes for 2nd.
No, he got stuck there a little bit. That surprises me that was able to catch Buddy out, because he should have known the only red car left is a 99 chassis that's been a little bit off the pace.
And Robbie McGee goes around Lazier, so Robbie McGee moves up another position, and now Donnie Beechler challenges to the outside of him. We've just got a great pack of cars running right together here on the racetrack. Dismore is in 2nd position, and he can hardly see the leader, Greg Ray, who is up ahead by 6.5 seconds. But there is Dismore, followed by Cheever. Then comes McGee and Lazier and Buell and Beechler.
Well, we just saw Lazier get caught in traffic a little bit and lost 3 or 4 spots just in the blink of an eye.
Tom, he got caught behind.
Oh, and we see a car. That's Eddie Cheever, the points leader. And there is smoke billowing from the back of that car. Well, this is going to shake up the point standings. And the crew can only watch what we are seeing, and that is Cheever slowing down on the racetrack. No caution at this point as Cheever is bringing the car into the pit area, but it appears to be all over for Eddie Cheever Jr. This is 6th on back. There's Greg Ray.
Cheever is midpoint.
And guys, Greg Ray has decided that he's got enough and had enough of fuel conservation. Thomas Knapp, about a lap before, told him, hey, you might want to downshift.
Look at the incredible lead that he has, and look who is going for 2nd position. That is McGee on the high side of Mark Dismore.
Well, I'm a little surprised we didn't see any kind of yellow with that oil problem on the racetrack. Obviously, the observers felt there was no problem, but at 210 miles an hour, you don't want any big surprises and have fluid on that racetrack.
Robbie McGee, of course, battled with Scott Sharp to the closest finish in series history at Texas, and once again he is battling for position wheel to wheel. This, however, is for 2nd with Mark Dismore. Buddy Lazier right behind.
Well, they're making this look pretty easy. It's a fast racetrack, and they're running side by side, Bob. This is some good stuff, and these drivers can't afford to make any mistakes.
He has 2nd position at the moment, but Dismore drives it hard down into turn number 1.
5th gear, Roger, 5th gear.
He retakes 2nd.
You're clear now, you're clear.
Well, again, you hear them talking about the gears.
Turn 1.
They talk about the gears. They've got 2 or 3 different gear selections. They're all within about 50/100ths of an RPM, but it makes a big difference on both mileage and how fast they can go.
Lazier will now head to the high side of the racetrack and battle with McGee for 3rd.
We might have to see Nerf bars back on the side of these things, Bob. I mean, these guys can't afford to be rubbing side pod to wheel.
Let's hear from Eddie Cheever, Jack.
I don't even think you have to talk to him to see the disappointment on your face, Eddie Cheever. How costly is this going to be in your chase for the championship?
Pretty bad. It's not something that we needed, but it's our first DNF this year. just no power. Engine was running very well. Car was good. Fun race, as usual, but there's 2 more to go. Anything can happen.
He is right about that. I mean, as close as the points are, and with 2 more races to go, this will be a setback for him, but he could certainly make a charge to the front once again and challenge for the championship. Continuing to watch 2, 3, 4, 5. Now back here in 6th position is Ward, Buell, and Al Unser Jr. as we come to the halfway point. 104 laps have been completed. Scott Goodyear takes the position, as you can see out the camera off the back of the car. Goodyear taking the position from Al Unser Jr. and moves Scott into 8th position. That's Robbie Buell just behind him. There's Scott Goodyear in the Pennzoil Panther. He will not be back with this team next year. He doesn't know what he is going to do, but he won't be back with the Pennzoil Panther team. Vince Welch has a report on Mark Dismore, who's still running second.
Bob, I just spoke with Jim Frudenberg, team manager for Mark Dismore, and I said, do you have anything for Greg Ray? And he said, not tonight, but Ray's got to run 208 laps, and he said it with a sly smile. So if Ray goes 208, Dismore's team doesn't feel like they're going to be able to catch him. The key, if he can go 208, and that motor has been a big question, or at least one of controversy, Tom Sneva.
Well, no question about that. They actually are racing the same motor they qualified at. A lot of the competitors figure this team has qualifying motors, Greg Ray, but they're actually racing the motor that they qualified on, and so people are concerned whether they can go the distance.
Here is Ray coming up on a bunch of slower traffic. That is Sarah Fisher just ahead of him.
Well, you can see the traffic racing there between Tice and Sarah. And this is holding Ray up a little bit.
Saw the last pole winner here in Atlanta was Rick Mears. We also mentioned that you, Tom Sneva, had the pole position back in 1978. I think you finished, what, 6th that year?
Well, I'm not sure where we finished, but on wooden wheels, 200 miles an hour back then was pretty fast.
Qualified at 202 miles an hour. Well, he's managed to work through the traffic and still has this much of an advantage on the rest of the field. Let's check it out at the line. It's 12.37 seconds. Now Lazier and McGee are in a wheel-to-wheel battle for the 3rd position. Mark Dismore has the 2nd spot as they go down the backstretch side by side.
Well, these guys have been battling for the last 15 laps just like that, side by side. Buddy's trying it on the high side. It's the long way around. Buddy might be a little quicker, especially as the fuel load goes down. Buddy seems to run a little bit better than the competition. Again, they're all lined up, trying to take advantage of the draft, trying to get pulled through the air.
Average speed of the race at this point is 171.2 miles an hour. We've had 3 caution periods, total of 14 laps. 89 circuits have been, or rather 110 circuits have been completed. And Greg Ray continues to add to his most laps led total. It's now up to 89. Down to Vince Welch.
Mark Dismore and Robbie McGee running 2nd and 3rd, and Bob, as you said, a long way behind Greg Ray. But Jim Frudenberg from Mark Dismore's team just came down and spoke with Skip Fall from Robbie McGee's team and said, if we don't run together, we have no chance of catching them. Skip Fall shook his head yes. Maybe look for McGee and Sharp to hook up here soon. Jackaroo?
Well, let's tell you what Thomas Knapp, the crew chief for Greg Ray, your leader, had to say. I asked him how the car was going. He shrugged his shoulders and he thought about it for a minute. And he came over and he's stoic as Thomas Knapp is. He simply said, we're happy.
Well, and Vince, you talked about not running together. What they really mean is they don't want to run side by side. When they run side by side, they're just pushing too much air. If they get nose to tail, they'll run a lot faster and have a chance to maybe close that gap. But when they run side by side, they're just pushing too much air to make any ground up.
These 3, though, stay right together on the racetrack.
Whoa.
Again, they're almost interlocking the wheels. Oh, as they come off the corner. Man, oh, man.
We're not used to seeing Indy cars with donuts in the side of the door, Bob.
That's for sure. You see that all the time in stock car racing, but those are closed wheels, folks. These guys are battling with the wheels exposed, and they are battling indeed. 10 more laps. We understand. Look at again how close they are.
You talk about exposure. They're about 3 inches from one of them being upside down right now.
Again, we understand that the leader will pit in about 10 laps.
Yeah, Bob, and think about this. If it comes under green, remember, this team has not had very good stops under yellow. Under green, it could be extra costly. They've got to hit the marks and do it quickly.
Very true. Both of his yellow flag stops, yellow flag pit stops, have been relatively slow compared to everybody else and has cost him track position. That was under caution. We'll see what happens if this stop is under green.
Well, again, you see Lazier on the outside. Now, Buddy's got enough experience. You'd think he might try to tuck in, but maybe they've been telling him from the pit area that he's faster by himself or on the outside than they are when they're nose to tail. So it's a little surprising right now.
Tom, that's exactly what Robbie McGee's pit just said. They said they can't get Buddy Lazier to slip down into the file. He keeps wanting to run out wide, passing cars. Well, might be great for Lazier, but it's not good for everybody else, and it's not good for the train trying to catch Greg Ray.
12 cars currently on the lead lap. As we're on the 118th circuit of the race, full moon, it looks like, over Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's Greg Ray with a 12-second advantage on Mark Dismore. Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic, 7th stop for the Indy Racing Northern Light Series. On board with Buddy Lazier, who's trying to get second position away from Mark Dismore. Greg Ray, a 13-second advantage, trying to build up as much of an interval between himself and everybody else in anticipation of pit stops, and Buddy Lazier drops off the banking and is going to be the first to make a stop. Lazier down on that banking. It's flat to his left. A little bit of a bank there, but it's flat right here as he enters pit road, and right there at that barrel, he must be down below the speed limit on pit road, 60 miles an hour.
Well, again, he did a great job. He got by Robbie McGee that he worked on about that whole segment, but then he came into the pits to get fueled up.
And Greg Ray hits the marks exactly. Now, what we want you to do is watch the two crew members on the front of the car. They're going to make a minor chassis adjustment.
Give him the wing, Dan. Give him the Dan. Give him the wing.
You heard. Down. They almost forgot to make that quarter of a wing turn. Let's go down to Vince Welch.
Mark Dismore is going to be coming in, and he's going to be making a pit stop as well. Obviously, they're going to be changing the Firestone tires and adding fuel. One of the advantages Dismore will have when he gets here is that the pit box directly in front of him is wide open, so he can come in and he doesn't have to worry about a car in front of him when he exits his pit spot. As Dismore rolls down, they're not going to make any chassis adjustments, but they are going to change the tires as expected. Glenn Scott on the right side changing the front right. Dismore checks the visor, everything is good, passes on the water. Off and away, good spot, 11.2 for Mark Dismore.
Well, and again, they had to wait a little bit on the fuel. They were down way low on fuel load, so they had to wait to get all the fuel in it. You can see Goodyear's dash here, all the red lights. He's one of the few teams that has the dash right on the steering wheel. Again, it's hard to see through the steering wheel sometimes to the dash, but in Goodyear's case, they have the dash, all the things he needs to know right on the steering wheel.
And it looks like
You might have noticed when Dismore came in, he had his finger on the steering wheel. Again, that was a pit speed limiter. When they come into the pits, they have a button that'll keep the motor from revving up too high and keep them under that 60-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, there is Ray, who has the lead back once again as he heads for the high side and puts a lap on Davey Hamilton, who is running in the 7th position. So just 6 cars now remain on the lead lap.
Tom, when you're in a situation and you know you're facing a green flag stop, is it not better to be the first of the leaders to pit? Then when everything cycles through, providing there's not a yellow, you can inherit the lead.
Well, sometimes that could work to your advantage. You give up your hand, but in this case, when Greg Ray's as quick as he is, he has the luxury of maybe taking a little extra time and make sure they don't have any problems.
Dismore is 11 seconds behind Greg Ray. Vince?
Scott Goodyear did indeed have a problem when he came in. he took off and the fuel hose was still attached. Now the fuel hose is disfigured at the top of the hose now, as you can get a good look at it there, and that's going to cause a problem when they come back and try to pit again and add fuel. There's a little bit of controversy in the pits as whether there was some miscommunication, but one thing we do know for sure, there is a problem in the Goodyear pit box, particularly when they want to come around for fuel the next time. Also, Jeff Ward has a gearbox problem. It's going to be a lengthy stop, and he is in the box right behind Goodyear.
He is still there and losing laps. He's now 5 laps down. Jeff Ward is one of the A.J. Foyt cars. The Harris G-Force still on pit road, and Greg Ray continues to lead here. 6 cars. Ray, Dismore, Lazier, McGee, Allenser Jr., and Salazar on the lead lap.
Greg. Great work. Everything looks perfect.
Yes, it does, and that is the end of the 130th lap.
Well, it's a little surprising. Again, in the pits, they almost forgot to give him that front wing adjustment. It wasn't much of an adjustment. They were only going to give him a 1/4 degree. That means the car is awfully close.
Not a great deal of change during those pit stops. Allenser Jr. was 7th when he came in. Now runs in the 5th position.
Well, the change was, though, Ray had about an 18-second lead when they went in. He only had 11-second lead over second place when he came out. So they did lose some time, but not the lead.
Here's the battle for 11th position. These drivers are not on the lead lap, but they are battling for position. That's Robbie Buell ahead of Jimmy Kite. And let's give a heads up to Jimmy Kite, who ran strong in all the practices, but he lost an engine with just a few minutes remaining in the final practice before qualifying yesterday. Did not qualify, started last. He is the hometown favorite. He's from Stockbridge, Georgia, not too far from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And here is Scott Goodyear and Davey Hamilton battling for the 7th position. Again, these cars not on the lead lap, but this is a battle for position.
Well, that's Davey underneath on the low side. He had a little trouble early in practice, but and didn't qualify where he wanted to, but he was real quick in last night's practice session.
Vince is with Jeff Ward.
Just one top 5 finish for Jeff Ward this season, and you're not going to get one tonight. What happened?
I'm not sure. I don't know. The car was running great. I mean, we were right up there with the lead pack, except maybe for Greg Ray. And guys did great pit stops. The Harris car was working great, but on the way out of the pits, it just didn't get up to speed. And then it just, RPMs just dropped down about 8,000 on the back, and I brought it in before it oiled down the track. So something in the motor, possibly.
Jeff Ward.
Snake eyes for the Harris car tonight, Bob.
Yep. Allenser Jr. making hand gestures to Robbie McGee as they battle for the 4th position. Looks like Allenser Jr. are going to take that spot. McGee and Allenser Jr. only 5 seconds from going, however, a lap down to Greg Ray. That's how dominant Greg is in this race here tonight.
Well, you don't have much time to be giving hand gestures out there, so it must. Robbie must have gotten little Al's attention somewhere in that previous lap.
135 laps are completed here at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic. We're going to take a break from the action and be right back with more from Atlanta Motor Speedway. This ESPN Speed World presentation of the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series Midas 500 Classic at Atlanta Motor Speedway is being brought to you by New Midas. We're a whole new way to keep a good thing going. Go Midas. By Firestone, America's tire since 1900. And by Oldsmobile and your local Oldsmobile dealer. We're under caution, but just before we went to caution, we want to bring you up to speed on what happened. We're on board with Buddy Lazier. That is Mark Dismore up ahead. The battle is for 2nd position, and Buddy is going to be able to take it here in the quad oval right at the start-finish line, headed down into turn number 1. Lazier successfully passed Dismore and went into 2nd. But the caution is out because of debris on the racetrack. And it comes on the 139th lap of the race. See the Indy Racing Northern Light Series truck out there going around the racetrack for an inspection to see if they can find that piece of debris that caused this caution. 5 cars now on the lead lap. Eliseo Salazar has gone a lap down, so it's McGee, Unser, Dismore, Lazier, and Ray, the 5 cars on the lead lap. Later tonight on ESPN2, it's RPM Tonight. Boy, this is a huge weekend for auto racing. Aside from the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, just about every major division is in action, and you'll be able to get the results of all of it on RPM Tonight. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. All right. Well, there are a couple of cars that are making pit stops, as you can see there, but most everybody has elected to stay out because it hasn't been that long since they were in for a fuel and tire change. On board with Mark Dismore, part of Team Kelly, and Tom Kelly had a seminar for his sponsors here earlier this weekend, and entertaining everybody who's associated with the teams. Well, Dan Weaver, this is Bob Jenkins in the control booth. How difficult is your job here, especially in a race like this? Everybody is so tightly bunched, guiding Mark through the traffic.
My heartbeat is probably as high as Mark's when he got somebody running right beside him. It's a lot of fun, but it's very nerve-wracking, and you most certainly have to be right on him every second. I never can take either eye off of him, so it's fun, but it's my level of stress is a little on the high side.
Dan, does he like to be talked to a lot, or does he just want you to tell him the critical moments?
Kind of in the middle. I mean, I tell him, but most obviously, of course, the traffic situation and the yellows, and I call the greens, and if sometimes I use a little psychology on him. So, a little bit.
Well,
Thank you.
Another first here on ESPN as we have conversation with the spotter during the race from his position high above the main grandstand here at Atlanta. All right, as you can see, the pace begins to quicken here. Mark closes in on the driver up ahead of him, and we'll go back to racing here in just a moment.
Bob, I just talked with Ron Himmelgarn a moment ago, and you might recall a few minutes back we talked about how the teams were trying to draft to narrow the gap between themselves and Greg Ray, and they couldn't get Buddy Lazier to file in single file with them. He kept wanting to go on the outside and pass cars. Ron Himmelgarn said, we'll get in single file as long as we're the car in the front.
Yeah, go, 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 go. Make your break, then take top. Make your break, then take top.
And Tom, making the break is very important. Getting that good jump to separate yourself from the rest of the field.
Well, that is important, but Greg had the luxury there of having 4 or 5 of the slower cars or the lap cars in between him and Buddy Lazier. And so it's a big advantage when you start up front and you have traffic, lap traffic in between you and the competition.
I think maybe that chassis adjustment, guys, as minor as it was, really is to Greg Ray's liking. During the caution, they conversed on the radio with Greg, said, how is the car? Greg said, real good.
But Jack, it just seemed like that there was again just a little bit of confusion because that crew member who made that chassis adjustment, it seemed like he almost forgot it before he was reminded to.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for Thomas Knapp and his quick thinking and use of the radio, they wouldn't have made that chassis adjustment. Sometimes the pressure down here to perform on pit road can cause you to forget critical items that are added on to your regular scenario. That's the case with the chassis adjustment. All that guy was concerned about is lug on, lug off, change the tire.
On board with Buddy Lazier, he just passed a slower car driven by Billy Boat. Boat is in the top 10, but is a lap down, and that's Davey Hamilton, who is running in 8th position. Just ahead now, to the right of Lazier, is the 9th place car of Donnie Beechler. Again, all those guys battling for position, but they are not on the lead lap, and we're going to have another caution as Mark Dismore, blows up.
Well, look, he's almost in his own oil. He almost spun that thing in his own oil, but he saved it. He got it slowed down quick enough.
And it looks like Dan Weaver's job for the evening is over as Mark's car is disabled and limping to pit road, and there is a huge amount of smoke in the air from that car.
Well, Dan's heartbeat will be able to settle down right now, but not for the reason he was hoping.
Tough luck for Mark Dismore again. He finished 2nd at Las Vegas earlier this year, had a 6th at Texas and a 4th at Colorado Springs. And Mark Dismore coming into this event 5th in the point standings. But it looks like it's going to be all over for him tonight as the car coasts into pit lane.
Well, they're having a lot of trouble with, here it is. This is Sharp, out of Sharp's car, his teammate, right behind Dismore. Again, these things, all of a sudden, they run flat out all the way around this racetrack, and you know, these things are breaking a lot of pistons. That looked like a piston that broke in that case. Again, when they run the motors real lean to try to get the horsepower up, and they put the timing in them to get the horsepower up, it causes a lot of heat. And when you run the motor flat out for that many laps in a row, it's a lot of stress on those components.
So the driver from Greenfield, Indiana will step out of his car as the track crew will now come out. Looks like he may have put down some fluid on the racetrack, so we'll have to get that up before we resume our racing in the Midas 500 Classic. Well, the track cleanup is now underway as Mark Dismore has put down some fluid on the racetrack. Jack, Greg Ray continues to lead.
Oh, Bob, and they are just doing it so cold and calculating like. One of the things that this team concerns itself a great deal about are tire pressures on the Firestone tires. Now, do you see this unit right here? This is actually a transmitter that will read the tire pressure of each tire. It is radioed back to pit road, and it comes up on board on telemetry. Now, one of the things that Thomas Knapp does periodically is he shuffles over here, looks over this man's shoulder, and what he's reading is tire pressures. It can tell you how the car is handling. You watch those pressures, you watch the temperatures, and all of a sudden it'll tell you if you got understeer or if you got oversteer. Vince?
Greg Ray will have one more pit stop. Ron Himmelgarn's driver, Buddy Lazier, will have one more pit stop. But, Ron, you're second in points, and the man in front of you is already out of the race. That's Eddie Cheever. Do you really need to press the issue to win this race, or finishing second good enough?
Well, for us, winning is first. The championship is second. I mean, you got to win races to win championships. You got to finish to win championships. But, you know, when you're out there, the option you get is to win the race. I mean, it's going to be tough. Greg Ray is really running strong tonight, and I think we got a good car. It's handling well. Buddy can pretty well handle everybody out there but Greg, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it unfolds. We got one more stop. We'll put in a load of fuel on the tires, and we should be set to go. But, you know, we're going for the win. Obviously, we know that Cheevers is out, and we've gained those points on him. But we'd really rather beat him on the track than actually in the pit here with him dropping out. And just like their Colorado, Eddie took the lead from us, and he come up and he said, man, I wish you guys would have been in there. And sort of Eddie and Buddy, they just run week in and week out, side by side. So that's a pretty good show to watch. So it's unfortunate they're out, but we should get the lead here, and hopefully we can keep it.
That's Ron Himmelgarn, owner for Buddy Lazier. 58 laps left in the Midas 500 Classic.
The drivers first, third, and fifth in the points have had problems tonight. Right now, Lazier is in the points lead by 22 over Eddie Cheever Jr. Still under caution here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, here were the points going in. Again, the championship very much at stake. Cheever has had problems. Scott Sharp has had problems. Mark Dismore has had problems. Lazier is still on the racetrack. So is Salazar, Unser. Now let's take a look at the points that are available. 50 points go to the winner. And, of course, you also get bonus points for top three qualifiers and laps led. Jack, what's your opinion on the championship for 2000?
Well, Bob, going into this race, I was totally convinced that it was Scott Sharp's to win. That was before the gearbox went crazy on him tonight. I think when you look at the way the performance is unfolding tonight, my feeling is that it looks like Buddy Lazier has got the inside line to the championship with 2 races left after this evening. But you never know. With 50 points in each race, things could get shuffled again. But I'm going to shift over to Lazier. How about you, Vince?
Well, I'll tell you right now, Eliseo Salazar is a guy I think you got to take a look at because he's making a strong charge. Salazar with 5 top 10 finishes so far this year, currently 6 in points. And Eliseo made the comment earlier this weekend that said, this is the chance that we have to make our jump into the point standings. Just 26 points behind the leader coming into this race. He said they only remember the champion at the end of the season, not those who finished in the top 5. He believes, truly believes, he can be a champion.
Okay, Sneva, assess the championship for us.
Well, Lazier looks pretty strong right now, but Scott Goodyear is right there. I mean, after these guys have had their problems, Scott, you know, he hasn't had that exciting of a season so far, but he'd like nothing better than to part ways with that team with a number 1 on his back at the end of this season.
That's for sure. Well, I don't have to shift gears because yesterday I said that I thought the championship was in the hands of Buddy Lazier, so I'm not changing my mind right now. Lazier is my pick for the 2000 Indy Racing Northern Light Series champ. And he's currently second here tonight to Greg Ray. We're still under caution with 153 laps completed. Greg Ray has the lead of this race under caution. The pole sitter has not won a race this year. Only 6 pole sitters have won in series history. However, 2 of those have been Greg Ray's victories. Well, let's recap what's happened so far. It was an early problem for Scott Sharp. On the very first lap of the race, he had a problem, dropped down off of the banking, and is 20 laps down. Then Ayrton Dare loses an engine, spins in front of a whole group of cars, but brings it safely to the inside without hitting anything. On the 69th lap, it was Buzz Calkins who lost an engine. The 97th lap, and the Eddie Cheever hope was gone in a puff of smoke. Then on lap number 147, again Mark Dismore drops out of the race after running at the front all evening long. So, Tom, a lot of engine problems here tonight.
Well, again, they had the reliability solved, but once they got the reliability solved, then they started leaning the motors out. If they run them lean, they make more power, but they develop more heat. So by running them lean to try to get a little more power, they hurt the reliability, and some of these guys haven't figured out where the edge is.
Here's Jack with Mark Dismore.
Well, Mark, we saw your car go up in smoke. Is there a reason, do you think, that we're seeing so many engines expire tonight?
Well, I don't know, Jack. I got to thank the OnStar Bryant team. They got me in and out great. We had a fantastic car. As far as the motor situation, you know, we've had good luck this year with motors, so I really don't know. It was just one of those deals. I mean, things like...
Well, it's not just you. I mean, we're just seeing so many, so I was beginning to wonder if maybe it was endemic of something around here.
Well, I mean, we're running around here flat for the most part, other than when you're in traffic, and I think when you do that, you know, you run into problems like that. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, we ran through Texas, and I don't think there was maybe one failure. Maybe. I'm not even sure. So I really don't know what the reason is. I mean, it's certainly not the temperature. You know, I don't know the answer to that. I know we got 2 races left, and we had a real shot at the points championship the way things were looking tonight. And I still got to believe we have, and we're going to go to Kentucky and in the next Texas race and keep my fingers crossed. And I want to thank the man upstairs, because I'll tell you what, the rear tires had more oil and water on them than he had air in them, and I don't know why I didn't put the thing in the wall, but I want to thank the man upstairs. And like I said, the OnStar Bryant guys did a fantastic job for me tonight.
Sometimes it's really good to have that guy as your riding mechanic.
Mark Dismore right now has dropped to 7th in the point standings and could drop lower than that. Good crowd on hand here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, waiting for the racing to resume in a moment. Bring you up to speed on what happened while we were away on break. Now, these guys waited until the last opportunity to come in, because now they can go the rest of the way, and Greg Ray, Tom, had a much smoother pit stop.
Well, the last couple stops have been a lot better than the first couple, even though they've been most of them have been under the yellow. Guys do a good job here. It's pretty clean.
Alanzer Jr. also made a pit stop, but Buddy Lazier now is going to go into the lead of the race, and Robbie McGee second, then Ray, Unser, Salazar, and Goodyear have gotten back on the lead lap because of Greg coming into the pit. You can see Goodyear right there ahead of Buddy Lazier, who now once again takes the lead.
And Bob, that should be Greg Ray's final stop. Remember early in the race, they did some fuel conservation measures, not trying to save fuel in the pits, but trying to figure out just how far they could go. Their calculations tell them that even if this race went green all the way, they could finish it without coming to the pits one more time.
Well,
they're done.
And you can see Lazier now is going in. It would have been better, obviously, to be first in, first out under that yellow. Buddy was last in of the front runners, and that's going to put him at the back of the lead lap of all the guys that are on the lead lap.
It should be an opportunity, though, Tom, for them. Obviously, they've got to fill it up with fuel because they're down. The load is way down. Ron Himmelgarn says we got to stay down on the fuel load. Make sure that they don't make a mistake here in the pits. And they've got an open pit box in front of them too, so they don't have any traffic to maneuver once they come in. Here he comes. Let's listen.
Well, they don't have any traffic in the pits, but they're going to have a bunch of traffic on the racetrack when this goes back.
And the pit stop goes pretty smoothly for Buddy Lazier. He lights up the tires and heads back onto the racetrack, dropping the visor down and moving up on the 24 degrees of banking. There is oil dry virtually all the way around this racetrack, and we're going to see probably a bit of dust and debris as the race goes back to green. You can see the jet dryer there on the backstretch blowing away some of that jet dry. They needed it because of Mark Dismore's blown engine. Robbie McGee has now in the lead, has led 6 of the 7 races this year, more than any other driver. McGee is the leader under caution. Buddy Lazier is second. We'll be right back. Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Greg Ray's wife watches her husband now go in the lead once again. A shuffling of the standings as Robbie McGee has made a pit stop. So that puts Greg Ray back into the lead. Al Unser Jr. is second, followed by Lazier, then McGee, and there are 2 cars at the tail end of the lead lap, namely Eliseo Salazar and Scott Goodyear. They have not pitted yet.
Well, and again, Lazier and McGee, I think they came in a lap or so later than Greg Ray and Al Unser Jr., and I think that's going to hurt them in the long run because they didn't have to put quite as much fuel in it, but they're going to lose a lot of track position. That's really bad for them. Goodyear and Salazar, by staying out, they've got their lap back, but they're going to need a yellow in a hurry or somewhere along the line to put fuel in those cars.
There is Lazier, who is in 3rd position. Well, the last driver to win an Indy Racing Northern Lights Series event from the pole position, as Greg Ray may do tonight, was in Las Vegas last September, and that was Sam Schmidt. And by the way, we want to say hi to Sam, who was undoubtedly watching tonight. He has been sent home to Las Vegas, and we're glad to hear that. Please keep the chin up, Sam. We're in hopes that you'll get back to the racetrack very, very soon. Vince?
Well, sometimes it's a gamble on pit lane, and A.J. Foyt is playing that gamble right now. Eliseo Salazar does need to come in one more time. He's currently running 5th. They said they could stay out another 20 laps, but they obviously need a yellow if he's to make it up to the number 1 spot. As mentioned, currently running 5th at lap 162.
Yeah, he needs to take the green flag, and then we have an immediate caution because that will allow him to circle the entire field, make the pit stop, and stay on the lead lap.
Well, the same's true for Goodyear. They're both in the same spot.
Well, apparently they have waved off the start here, so everybody is accelerating, and now they're being told by their spotters that there will not be a green flag. So Greg Ray had built up a lot of momentum and had to dive low on the racetrack and hit the brakes.
Well, again, Salazar and Goodyear need to try to get a little jump on the rest of the field so they can stay on that lead lap and hope to catch that yellow.
There was a case of the radio problem on Greg Ray's car, guys. They kept trying to tell him, no start, no start. They were telling him on the backstretch.
Yep. Well, tomorrow, tune in as ABC Sports brings you more great golf action with the final round of the Greater Milwaukee Open. The leader after the 3rd round is Lauren Roberts. It all happens at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 Pacific on ABC.
Well, we shanked a few motors in this race, Bob. Let's hope we don't see any shanks in the Milwaukee Open.
Right into the rough. Here we go. Al Unser Jr. staying right with Greg Ray as they come down to take the green flag. We are back to racing. That's Scott Sharp in addition to Goodyear and Salazar up ahead of Greg Ray. 3 wide through the corner. Goodyear in the middle.
But you can look at all the oil dry on the racetrack, and I think little Al was a little more conservative. He didn't know how hard to run through that stuff.
Still 3 wide as Sharp gets way up high, but Greg Ray has gone into the lead and separated himself now and put both Salazar and Goodyear a lap down. Davey Hamilton.
Another motor.
Davey Hamilton drops down off the banking, and he apparently has a motor problem. But I don't think it's going to cause a caution because he is well off of the racing surface. And right now we look down to the starter, and we do not see a caution coming out. Indeed, we stay under green.
Well, it looks like they got enough oil dry on that racetrack to sop up about 3 more motor problems before they have to go yellow again.
Here's Al Unser Jr. trying to put Goodyear a lap down and try to catch up to Greg Ray.
Bob, this is a very special day for Al Unser Jr. and Rick Gallis. They ran their first IndyCar race together as a team back in the 80s here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. They were so bad, they were 16 miles an hour off the pace. They went and they bought a Formula 5000 wing during practice, slapped it on the car. He gained the 16 miles an hour, but Vince, he still had to start last.
You know, it's interesting, too, Jack, in a follow-up to the Davey Hamilton motor problem, he has a Menard engine in his car for this weekend. That's one of the reasons why they found some extra speed this weekend. But Davey told me before the race, with a chuckle, he said, I don't think it's the same Menard engine that Greg Ray has.
That's something to keep in mind.
Well, that is interesting. Team Extreme, they lost both motors, but they were by different engine manufacturers. So a lot of motor problems out there today. Look at the racing here. There's Beechler in the black car.
And we're on board with Buddy Lazier as he tries to carve his way through this traffic and get up to battle with Allenser Jr. That's Salazar and Sharp, both to his left. Now, several of these cars are not on the same lap, but still are in a battle for position. And Buell and Salazar are in that category. That's Buell right up ahead of Buddy Lazier. He's going to go to the inside of Robbie. But Buell is in competition with the driver right behind him, Eliseo Salazar.
And again, a lot of oil dry out there, but these guys aren't being very conservative. They've got the hammer down on
Robbie Buell running in the 7th position there in the other Infinity Indy engine in the field. Robbie Buell started this race from the 8th position and currently finds himself in 7th spot. And there is Donnie Beechler and Scott Goodyear as they battle for 5th right behind Allenser Jr. And more on that Allenser Jr. race 17 years ago. Jack was right when he said he started in last position. Allenser Jr. finished the race in 6th. And you know what's amazing to me? He told me earlier this year that more than half of his Gallus team with him this year is the same team with which he won the Super B championship back in 1981. There's our track map.
That's what a Formula 5000 wing will do for you.
I'm saying their hair isn't the same color as it was that long ago.
There's our track map. The interval between 1st and 2nd, 3.2 seconds. While Greg Ray continues to lead, Buddy Lazier has successfully carved his way through the slower traffic and successfully passed Allenser Jr. for 2nd position. Right now, the fastest car on the racetrack is Greg Ray once again, but there for a few laps it was Buddy Lazier as he made the move to 2nd.
Well, actually, he was slowed down the last couple laps trying to get by Little Al, but it'll be interesting to see how he does in the next few laps because I think he's closing the gap on Greg Ray.
Well, right now the interval is 4.14 seconds, and we will keep an eye on that. There's Ray headed for turn number 3 as the rest of the field comes out of the 2nd turn and down the backstretch. 4.14 that last lap.
Well, you can see Little Al. He's trying to tuck in and run nose to tail to try to push them both towards Greg Ray.
And that time the interval goes up to 4.4 seconds. Man, a good wheel-to-wheel battle here as we have 30 laps to go between Little Al and Lazier. Little Al went high and now looks down low and once again goes up high.
Well, just when I said they're going to run nose to tail, Little Al got a big run, and when you get that big a run, sometimes it's hard to have the willpower to not try to make the pass.
4 cars on the lead lap, and Robbie McGee is the last car on the lead lap. He's running back there, wheel-to-wheel with Robbie Buell. Buell is not on the same lap as Robbie, but 4 are on the lead lap as less than 30 laps remain.
Well, again, it shows you what kind of racing they've had. There's just so many close calls out there. And these guys aren't giving up until the checkered flag comes down. I can see that.
Greg Ray's last lap, 210.469 miles an hour. Lazier is running 209.084, and Allenser Jr. 208.696.
Well, with the Cup cars, you can play a little bumper tag and push each other to the front. But with the open wheel cars, you don't have that luxury. So sometimes it's hard to take advantage of that draft and get these 2 or 3 cars to push themselves towards the leader.
Now Unser goes to the high side of Buddy Lazier, and once again, we have a side-by-side confrontation for position coming out of the backstretch. Coming out of turn, oh, and McGee got way up high coming out of 2.
The red and white car, we saw dusting down the wall a little bit. Again, that's a lead lap car, and he's come from way back at a late pit stop.
Scott Sharp there being passed by the faster traffic. And there is a lot of traffic. Donnie Beechler right there in that black car. He is in 5th spot. The first car not on the lead lap. Goodyear, Buell, Salazar, Boat, Kite, and Gregoire are all just one lap down. That is 5th through 11th.
Well, again, some great racing. I mean, wheel to wheel. Some of them aren't on the right lap, and that's just because of pit stops and things. But at speed, these things are very, very competitive.
But Tom, that interval is growing between Ray and second place. It's up to 5.4 seconds right now. And they're going to split J.J. Yaley, who's in the worldbestbuy.com car this year, for Bird McCormick this week, I should say. They have abandoned the Riley and Scott chassis and are driving a G-Force. Let's go down to Vince.
Well, remember, just a short while ago, we talked about Eliseo Salazar needing a yellow, and A.J. Foyt was gambling by staying out. They didn't get the yellow. They had to come in for a time stop. No fuel, or no tires, just fuel, and Salazar's back out on the track, but that's a costly stop.
Yep, he does finally, however, make the pit stop. It's going to drop him back to about 11th position. Eliseo Salazar now finds himself 2 laps down.
Well, they're used to gambling with that Rio car. That's part of the Vegas tradition, I think, and they had to go.
6-second lead for Greg Ray over Buddy Lazier. Third is Allenzer Jr. We'll be right back. Bob Jenkins, Tom Sneva, Jack Arute, Vince Welch back at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the closing laps now of the Midas 500 Classic. If we remain away, you will see no more commercials until the race is over. We're watching 2nd, 3rd, and 5th place. 2nd is Buddy Lazier. Then Allenzer Jr. A lap down in the black car is Donnie Beechler. Now the 4th place car is Robbie McGee. He continues to run right up there with the rest of them back there in that red and white car. There he is.
And again, he was the last one to make a pit stop, so he had more traffic to pass, and he's gotten by them all. He's catching 2nd and 3rd. He's catching Little Al and Lazier as we speak. You can see Lazier and Little Al's doing everything he can to work that draft.
And Scott Goodyear finally makes his pit stop. Remember, he tried to stay on the lead lap but was unable to, and now with 191 laps completed, he finally makes the pit stop. On board with Lazier as we look back to Allenzer Jr. And these two guys have been battling it out for the last few laps and just will not allow the other one to get very far ahead.
Well, Little Al has just been working that draft just unbelievably, trying to do everything he can to get a run on Buddy. Buddy's real good on the bottom, and so Little Al's got to try to get around the outside, and that's a long ways to go.
Greg Ray's lead is 7.1 seconds, and neither Greg Ray nor Team Menard has ever won on a 1.5-mile oval. Keep that in mind as we get down to the closing laps of this race. 1.5-mile tracks have not been the forte for Buddy Lazier. He did win at Charlotte, and we have a crash.
Sarah Fisher.
And that is the first wall contact that we have had this evening. It comes on the 194th lap of the race. Quickly, the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series officials are right there, and Sarah appears to be okay. She has torn the left front tire off the car, but appears to be in good shape. Well, now the nail-biting time comes along. Angela Ray looking on as her husband Greg continues to be the leader of the race, and Scott Harrington is halfway out of his car, indicating that he may have a hot seat. He's taken over the Mid-America Motorsports team for Doug Dodaro here at Atlanta, making his first start of the year 2000. He is the Rookie of the Year in the series last year. Well, we'll show you what happened to Sarah Fisher here as best we can. She has made contact with the wall as we see Scott Harrington getting out of his car. And yeah, it would seem that he has a hot seat.
Well, that's a tough break for Harrington.
Watch the top of your screen.
We just see Sarah. She's already spun. She gets in left front first. Car just slides along the wall before it comes down the banking towards the infield. A lot of sparks. Ooh, look at that. A lot of debris in the racetrack, and it looked like J.J. Yaley might have ran over some of that stuff. There's Goodyear coming into the fray. We don't know if he got anything.
And Scott Harrington still continues to indicate to us that the seat got a little warm there as he walks back to the pit area. Scott Goodyear, as we indicated, finally made his pit stop. We're on board with him as he comes in. And he runs into some of his crew members, Vince.
Well, it's Scott Merriman, and Scott changes the right rear tire, and you saw that on the replay. It looks like maybe Scott Goodyear just came in too close to the wall and clipped Merriman. Now they're working on Scott Merriman as he lays on the ground, and at this point, it's a leg injury, we believe, and they're stabilizing the leg, and they're putting him, getting ready to put him on a backboard. But he was talking, he is awake, he is alert, and he's communicating with the medics, but they're working on his left leg as a leg injury, and he may be, I believe, if I heard him correctly, mention that he thinks his leg is broken. But he is indeed communicating with the crew, and that's the most important thing. He's talking to the medics, he is awake, but certainly a tough blow for Scott Merriman, not expecting that, obviously.
Well, you know, in the pits, we have a speed limit, Bob. It's 60 miles an hour that they can't go any faster in, but what the drivers try to do is they run that 60 as far into the pit as they can, and then slow down at the last minute. Sometimes you can lock up the brakes.
Next, that's Dr. Henry Bach, the medical director for the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series, who has his arm around Sarah Fisher, and she will be taken to the infield medical center for a check over, but she is walking to the van and appears to be okay. Well, let's give a call to Jimmy Kite, who is in 7th position. Started last, up to 7th, and he's putting on a very good performance for the hometown fans. He lives, as I indicated earlier, just a few miles away from Atlanta Motor Speedway in Stockbridge, Georgia. Says he likes to come back home for one thing. He can sleep in his own bed, and he also loves his mom's spaghetti and meatballs.
Well, he's short enough. There's a lot of people who can sleep in Jimmy's bed, I think, at one time. But he's done a great job. He's used his head. He's always been fast, but he's had a little trouble knowing where the limit is, and now he's maturing as a driver.
Just 12 laps remaining in the Midas 500 Classic. ESPN Speed World presentation of the Indy Racing Northern Lights Series Midas 500 Classic at Atlanta Motor Speedway is being brought to you by New Midas. We're a whole new way to keep a good thing going. Go Midas. By Pennzoil with Pure Base, protection so strong you can see the difference. And by OnStar. It's all the help you'll need on the road. OnStar. How can we help you? Well, the pace car has pulled off the racetrack, and we are ready to go back to green flag racing. Now we have Eliseo Salazar between the leader Greg Ray in 2nd place, Buddy Lazier, and Al Unser Jr. is right behind Buddy. And then Donnie Beechler, and then the 4th place car of Robbie McGee. Those 4 on the lead lap.
Well, that's a tough break for Buddy because Salazar is as quick as any of these guys, and it's going to make it tough for Buddy to get by. Look at the jump, though, that Ray gets on these guys.
Salazar 3 laps down, back at 11th position, and there is the green flag as we go back to racing on the 200th lap. Lazier is going to go to the high side and try to dispose of Salazar and try to do something that hasn't been done tonight, and that is catch Greg Ray.
Well, that's a tough deal, those restarts. Greg was able to get a little bit of a jump. Again, they pull the pace car off a little bit earlier and lets the leader dictate how he wants to start those restarts, and it really gives an advantage to that leader.
That's Donnie Beechler running alongside Salazar, making the pass. Beechler, the first car not on the lead lap, in the 5th position. Donnie with another great run here this evening.
Well, that is a great job for a smaller team, really an underdog situation. It was pretty nice of Salazar. Salazar let those guys go and let them go racing.
And Kite, we talked about him during the caution and what a great run he was having with the Big Daddy's barbecue sauce car, the Blueprint Racing Special, but he has dropped out of the competition again with some kind of a mechanical problem, but no caution. He dropped off the racetrack. Now the battle for 2nd position as Lazier has it and Al Unser Jr. wants it.
Well, these guys are having a lot of fun out there. Little Al's working his tail off trying to get this job done, but he's going to have to do it on the high side. Buddy's car is working so well, he can keep it right down to the bottom, and Little Al's going to have to go around the outside, and that's going to be a real tough chore.
5 laps to go at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic. Hey, look at Unser. He's got a good run here through the first and second turns, but Buddy Lazier is just a little bit shorter distance around down there on the bottom, and he holds on to the second spot.
Well, I've talked to some of the drivers after practice, and they say the draft is tremendous. They get a big run, but as soon as they pull out the clean air, it's like they run into a barn door. The car just stops, and they need help to get by. They can't finish the pass.
Interval between first and second, 2.09 seconds, as Greg Ray is on his way to his 4th career win, but let's not make that call just yet. We've got 204 laps down and 4 to go, as the main battle on the racetrack here is for second.
Well, you see Beechler's right there. He's just as fast as they are. He's that lap down. That's a tough situation. But you got to give credit to the Menard team. And Greg Ray, again, they tried some things. They tried a narrow track. They figured that pulling the rear tires together was less drag. They found out it was 15 pounds less drag. Now, 10 pounds less drag is a mile an hour at this racetrack. So they've reduced the drag on that car by going to the narrow track by 15 pounds, and that's a little over a mile an hour, and that's pretty much what they got in the field right now.
We talked about the battle for the championship. Coming into this race, Greg Ray, you won't even see him in the top 10 or the top 15. He came into this race 18th in the point standing, so it's pretty much a situation where he is not going to be able to defend his Indy Racing Northern Light Series championship, but to put a win in the books here will certainly give this team some momentum heading into the final 2 races of the year. Final lap is underway. The white is out, and Beechler slides way up high, gets in the gray stuff, and saved the car, however.
There's your win, fella.
Here is Greg Ray coming down.
Excellent job. Thanks, everyone, for your hard work. Good job.
Greg Ray wins, and second place goes to Buddy Lazier, but Al Unser Jr. made a race out of it. Nice job by Lazier, holding off the challenge of Al Unser Jr. It's the 8th victory for Team Menard. They've had 4 with Greg Ray, 3 with Tony Stewart, and 1 with Robbie Buell. All 7 previous wins have been on 1-mile ovals. This is the first win for Team Menard on a 1.5-mile oval. And it, of course, is the first win for a pole sitter this season.
Well, just a tremendous job. They had it all together, and just head and shoulders over the rest of the pack today.
And Angela loves it. His margin of victory over Buddy Lazier was 3.05 seconds. Al Unser Jr. finished 3rd, McGee 4th. Beechler was 5th a lap down. Then Buell, Gregoire, Boat, Hattori, and Salazar completed the top 10. So Greg Ray will drive to victory lane for the first time in the year 2000, giving his team their 8th win overall.
Maybe to give that Conseco stock a little shot, too, Bob.
Here's Donnie Beechler, who has pulled in just ahead of Greg Ray, and there goes Stefan Gregoire, who finished in the 7th position. There's Salazar, who came in 10th. Others finishing, Scott Goodyear was unofficially in 11th position. Jimmy Kite, who dropped out there in the closing laps, was able to still bring home a 12th place finish.
That's fun seeing some of the other teams coming up to congratulate the winner, Greg Ray.
Well, while he finds victory lane, we'll show you the unofficial results. There are the top 10. We didn't mention Shigeaki Hattori very much during the evening, but he had a very successful and consistent run up into the 9th position. Now 11 through 20. See that Tice Carlson was 13th. Despite her crash, Sarah Fisher got a top 15 finish, as did Davey Hamilton. Scott Sharp persevered through opening lap problems. J.J. Yaley, in his first run of the year, finished 17th. Mark Dismore blew up, finished 18th. So did Jeff Ward and Scott Harrington. Eddie Cheever Jr. is going to finish way back in the 21st position. Stevie Reeves in his race for Logan finished in 22nd. Then Calkins, Schrader, and Dare, all of those drivers also experiencing mechanical problems and dropping out of the competition. Well, we're still waiting on Greg Ray to get into victory lane. They're positioning the car right now. Meanwhile, let's go down to Vince.
Buddy Lazier finishes second. Now 3 second-place finishes and a first-place finish this season, and you regain the points lead. So maybe not winning the battle, but still ahead in the war.
Yeah, really happy about that. Greg Ray had an awful lot tonight. We were hoping we might be able to get there with him, but I lost the draft. I had too many cars between he and I on that last restart. So then it was just a matter of defending second place from hard-charging little Al behind me. Because the draft is so critical, it's really hard to defend your position.
Congratulations, Buddy Lazier, runner-up. Let's go to Jack Carute with the winner.
Well, it is a very jubilant victory lane, and it's no wonder. It's been a long time for this team. Hey, you finally got the monkey off your back. Congratulations, Greg.
Oh, God, thank you so much. I tell you, Team Menard, Conseco Team Menard's been working so hard all year long. You know, these guys deserve better results. And, you know, after Pikes Peak, I mean, I was really down. You know, I felt like we had the car to win there, and I made a big mistake trying to pass where I shouldn't have. And, you know, we went back to details. We started working on pit stops and all the small things. And we quit worrying about the big things. Focus on the details, focus on execution. And the big things always take care of themselves.
Well, let's talk about the big thing under the bonnet here, because you really startled everybody. First of all, 3 miles an hour faster. And then to rub salt in the wounds, you say, hey, let's just run the same qualifying engine in the race.
Well, you know what? Again, guys been doing a great job, and you know, we've made some big changes from qualifying to the race, and it hasn't worked out for us. So we decided to lay all our eggs in one basket and go for it. We're so far down on points, there was nothing to lose. And tell you what, this Menard car was a missile today, and it was fun to drive.
What about the race itself? Were you ever challenged? Because you looked as if you dominated this thing the way the old Oakland Raiders used to do in football.
Well, the biggest thing, it wasn't a draft like it was in Texas. You could really break the draft. And so, again, I focused on trying to get really good restarts and shaking the draft. And I ran a lot different line than all the other cars. And I don't know why they were running where they were. But, again, the team did a great job.
No chance with the points championship for you to defend your title. Now do you just go for wins?
Oh, I think so. I mean, the bottom line is we do the best job we can every time we're in the race car. And again, I feel very bad that Team Menard hasn't had more wins this year. It's a great group, and they're a championship caliber team, and they deserve everybody's best effort. And we have 2 more to go, so maybe we could save face a little bit by winning 2 more races before the year's up.
Well, Vince Welch, it was a dominating win for Greg Ray, but boy, what a whale of a battle for second place.
And how about Al Unser Jr. bringing it in from the back of the pack? Last time you were here in '83, you started last and finished 6th. Jack mentioned that during the course of the telecast, and even better tonight, finishing 3rd.
Yeah, I tell you, I just want to thank my sponsors, Tickets.com and Stars Encore Super Pack, and my team. I mean, they did a great job. They put me up front on that first pit stop, and so it was great.
Was it as fun as it looked?
It was a blast. I mean, these 1.5-mile racetrack, high bank, and with this formula of the Northern Lights Series, it's spot on to put on shows like this. And so I want to say hi to my kids at home and also Chad and Chase.
Al Unser Jr., 3rd place tonight, Bob Jenkins.
Has 5 top 10 finishes in 7 races this year. And he is 6th in the point standings, but here are the top 5. Buddy Lazier has the points lead, taking it away from Eddie Cheever Jr. Scott Goodyear, Eliseo Salazar, and Scott Sharp are in the top 5. Here is 6 through 10. We'll be right back with more from Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Robbie McGee's 2 best finishes on 1.5-mile tracks, and you did it again. 5th place tonight, 4th place tonight.
Oh, I like these. They're fun. They absolutely provide for some great racing. It really brings out the race for me, and I'm happy for Trebway Racing. I'm happy for the Broadband Investment Group, and what a great way to, you know, we got some points. I'm still haven't had my time in winner's circle yet, but we got 2 more to do it this year, and I'm going to do everything I can.
The racing, as tremendous as it looked, Al Unser Jr. said it was like the best formula and the best tracks you could get.
It's just awesome. I mean, I'm sure Al has pretty much covered all that. It absolutely is. Northern Light Indy Racing Series is so it provides this great formula for great racing, and this track's not quite as sticky as Texas on the banking, but wow, what great racing.
Robbie McGee, he finishes 4th tonight. What a thrilling run.
By the way, as we take a look at the 2 remaining races, we have been trying to get a word with Sarah Fisher. However, we have been unsuccessful. She apparently is okay, and we understand that the engine blew on that car is the reason she did spin into the wall. Now, we look forward, Tom, to Kentucky Speedway. They've tested down there, and we understand that it's a great racetrack. That's the next one, and then Fort Worth. Jack?
Sarah, real quickly, we got 30 seconds. The engine let go?
Yeah, it just blew up. I mean, it was totally blatant, blew up and just came around on me like that.
Guys?
Well, good to hear from Sarah, and better to see that she is okay after a very good run that unfortunately resulted in the crash and dropping her to 14th position. But a couple of real good races coming up, Tom.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited about them, and, you know, it doesn't get much better than this. They got to do something with these motor problems, though. They're trying to get a little more horsepower out of them, and it hurts the reliability.
Greg Ray wins here at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Midas 500 Classic. Stay tuned for Baseball Tonight here on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. We'll see you in Kentucky. Greg Ray wins at Atlanta.